Hello, in this video I'm going to tell you a little bit about information systems and technology. So this video can be utilized as an introduction video to information systems course in a college environment. So first of all, what is information processing, right? We are talking about information. What is information before we even start talking about information processing? So imagine in a hotel environment, in a hospitality environment, there is raw data. This raw data comes from multiple sources. Just again, imagine a hotel. People come in making reservations, check in, check out. People go to the restaurant, they are buying things from the gift card, they go to the fitness center. All of these things are actually creating data for this hotel. Just like here, you are seeing reservations, front office sales, point of sale system, accounting, and etc. So even if we use computers or not, we are actually making some decision based on some rules, right? For example, if I count the number of rooms that I have in my hotel, and if I know how many people are staying in the hotel, I can easily divide the occupancy by dividing the number of total available rooms, right? I can do this by hand, but computers actually help us do all these information processing process easier. So once I get that information, this becomes what we call shaped data. It goes from raw data into shaped data, which then I call this information. So this whole process happened with the help of computers. These decision-making rules, for example, the definition of occupancy, or we can also make other decisions based on that one. For example, RevPAR, revenue per available room, etc. So what is a computer? So let's define a computer. Computer is an electronic device operating under the control of instructions, right? That is in the form of iOS or software. We'll talk more detail about those in the following units. And store in its memory unit that can accept data, which is the input phase, and manipulate data, which is the processing. We have just talked about it, and then produce this information, which we call output, right? That's the definition of a computer. And computer-based information systems do this based on different phases. The first phase is input. For any computer to be able to perform any functions, they need to take some input. And then again, with the help of central processing unit, it needs to process this information and then give an output through different communication devices. That could be a screen, monitor, it could be a printer, or it could be another system goes in there. So let's see this in this short video, how this processing works.
We live in a world where we all depend on digital technology in one way or another. Whether we use technology to complete a class assignment, connect with people around the world, or simply for entertainment purposes, it's vital for us to learn how digital systems work. Computers allow us to store and view different forms of data, such as numbers, text, images, sounds, animations, and videos. But how do they do that? There are several internal system components and peripheral devices available to perform the tasks required for us to communicate with the computer. These tasks can be classified into the following categories: input, output, and storage. Input devices allow data to enter into the computer. They capture information and translate it into a form that can be processed and used by other parts of the computer. Examples include the keyboard, mouse, scanner, microphone, webcam, stylus, and the touch screen. Output devices take the information within the computer and present it in a form that we can understand. Examples are the monitor, printer, projector, and speakers. Storage devices store information to be recalled and used at a later time. These include the hard disk, USB flash, and the external drive.
As you can see in this picture, this is a desktop computer. Probably chances are high that many of you were not even born when we were using these desktop computers. If you were to open a desktop computer, these are the units inside that you are going to see. This is the CPU, Central Processing Unit, which the desktops used to have a fan to cool the CPU when it was processing information, power supply, etc. You know, our external hard drives or cloud hard drive spaces are used now in today's technology. This is the inside of a laptop here, which was like broken apart into pieces. Again, this has all the information that the desktop had, all the devices, all the parts, but in much more compressed way. And speaking of input devices, the most common one is keyboard, where you can just type things into the computer, and you can of course use mouse, touch screen in a restaurant environment, etc. There are some other input devices such as voice recognition, pen-based systems where you can write things, scanners and barcode readers, and sensors. I'm going to show you some example. For example, this is one of the older models of a Micro's point of sale system. You can see that on the top portion is the output unit, that's the monitor, and this is the touch screen part, and here is the keyboard, which is the hardwired, right? This doesn't change, but this touch screen can change. So this is actually a input unit here, and that's the output unit. Let's look at this one. This is another type of a point of sale system, which I took the picture many years ago. You can see here, this is for a quick service restaurant, and you can see all these buttons serve as the input device. This is my output device. Of course, this is connected to the printer in the kitchen, which also is another output device. Here's another one. This is more newer, I guess, that system. It's a touch screen, so you see an input device and output device at the same time. So this is another example. In 2004, I took this picture. It is one of the first examples of mobile handheld point of sale systems. Again, this is a touch screen. This person here, the server, actually can enter the orders from the table side. Just to give you an example of an input device is a barcode. This can be used in, for example, scanning the inventory in a bar, where you can use this gun look like a shape barcode scanner, scan this particular barcode in a bar where you can use the inventory, or you can go to the storage and scan this code and enter the amount that is left into this particular device, into an app or computer or handheld or a smartphone. Let's see some more examples of input and output devices from this video, where Alibaba in China, which is the company kind of like eBay or Amazon in China, have a futuristic hotel. Let's watch this video and identify some of the input and output devices. You can see here there was a facial recognition, right? That's the biometric. And this person was talking, so there is voice recognition, so our input device is voice here. So he's turning on the TV again by voice, and the TV came on.
主人，你说。我需要一瓶水。好的，服务员会尽快送来饮用水。
So he is ordering a water again, and the robot actually is delivering this system, as you can see here in this system. So this video, I wanted to use it just for the input and output devices example. There is other input devices like radio frequency identification, where you are actually, if you're a student and you, for example, go into your dormitory, if you need to wave your card, that particular technology is RFID, radio frequency identification, or biometrics, as you have seen in that video, right?
Biometric screening is a way of using an individual's specific physical or biological characteristics to verify identity. Its purpose is to tighten security, protecting personal documents such as passports or contracts, and making actions like withdrawing money or entering private premises safer and easier. The oldest and most widely used form is digital fingerprinting. Unique and permanent, except when a person suffers severe burns, the patterns making up our fingerprints are identifiable thanks to regions known as deltas, forks, and ridge endings. Each print contains up to 90 of these points, but using just a dozen or so should be enough to identify one identical twin from another. Eye scans work in a similar way. Thanks to the distinct structure of each individual iris, reliable identification is possible. The technique, however, is costly. A less expensive option, using a palm morphology reader. The only problem, the form of a person's hand changes over time. This technique can be useful, however, for quick identification purposes even in dusty or dirty conditions, and that's why it's often used on construction sites and at harbours. Finger or hand vein recognition is another way of checking identity, as infrared light shows the patterns unique to each individual. Already present at birth, they remain with us until we die. Finally, there's the good old-fashioned signing on the dotted line of contracts and papers. Pressure points, pace and pattern all make up the specific identity of our signature.
As you can see in this video, that there are different biometric identification tools that we use today. And let's talk about output devices. Printers are the most common ones. Monitors, as we already have seen. You probably don't remember the catheter tube ones, the old monitors that was big. And today we are using liquid crystal LCD for short monitors. Digital signage, you may have gone to a restaurant, you see instead of the menus are electronic menus, for example, advertising and other images as well. And some of the storage devices are hard disk or external hard disk, USB flash drive, which is very commonly used currently, magnetic tape. We don't see this very often currently, but especially about 20-30 years ago, it was used in hotels and hospitality very predominantly. And then these are floppy drives, which we don't use now, but it's just for reference purposes, are optical storage. Also the CDs and DVDs. And CPU is a device where it is processed the information in a computer. It has three different components: arithmetic logic unit, control unit, and primary storage. And the speed of a CPU is measured in gigahertz or million instructions per second. So when you go to a computer store, let's say something like Best Buy, they will actually tell you that the speed of the CPU, the higher the speed, of course, the better the computer is, just like with the memory would be. And let's watch a short video how CPU is made. And communication devices enable computers to be linked together to form a computer devices. So for example, we have some devices here in the slide: network interface card, routers, and a switch that connect. When we talk about in a later chapter, we are going to talk about the network systems in detail. And as a manager in a hospitality organization, that you are going to most likely manage a local area network, which is like a PMS system, which is in a one physical location, or a wide area network, like for example central reservation system or cloud computing. And software is also an integral part of a computer system. It's the computer programs that control the electronic hardware and perform processing tasks for the user. There are two types of software: system software, like the operating system, let's say Windows-based operating system, Linux, or Macintosh, iOS. Or there's also application software such as Fidelio, for example, or any other software, Word, Microsoft Word, or etc. And integrated software is an effort by the software industry to combine variety of different software into one together, so there's seamless integration, such as Microsoft Office. You can use different functions of the software within each other, or Google Docs is a good example. Google Sheets, like Google Drive, has a lot of these integrated software. Also, hospitality vendors provide integrated software through turnkey or interface systems. Interface systems, which means that there is two different systems, but they interface with each other, so they communicate with each other seamlessly. Even though this is easy to say, it's not really easy to do, because there is a lot of different systems, and combining them together so that they can share information or even process information together is not easy. There is one organization which is called Hotel Technology Next Generation. This organization's goal actually is to create an environment where hospitality and tourism software interfaces with each other seamlessly. That's the idea. And you can go to hdng.org to get more information about this. Workflow software is another type of software. Involves the automated movement of documents or items through a specific sequence of actions, such as like a project management tools. Monday.com is an example, or Microsoft Teams is another example. And operating systems, we already talked about it. It's the it is the system that makes the computer hardware work, like Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, Unix, or Linux are some examples. Operating systems perform 4 primary tasks, such as the user interface. This on the left here is the DOS, disk operating system, which again many of you probably may have never seen, but this is what was used when the computers were first, especially desktop computers were first used. And then the second task of the operating system is manages the file system. All these different systems inside the files, and also makes the communication between the hardware and the software, like such as printing. The computer revolution, as you know, it started like in 80s, 90s as desktop, and then later 2000s laptops started to become a mainstream, and tablet computer today everybody is using a smart device, like an iPhone or a tablet computer. In the future we're going to have wearable computers. We're going to talk about future later chapter. So here are some actually pictures to you from the University of Delaware Computer History Museum. These like show you different hard drives. Look at those hard drives. In the old days they were so big, and over time they the sizes get smaller, but the space, the storage space got higher, and their speeds also got higher. You can see this is 1982, just to give you some example. And this is the punch cards. This is the first type of computers. That's how they actually took the input. And here this is a early laptop. You can see it's very old, 1989, and you can just see, look at this, 720 kilobyte floppy disk. Today when you take a picture, it's 4 or 5 megabyte, just one picture. You take a 10-minute video, that could be multiple gigabytes, and this particular laptop worked only with 720 kilobyte floppy disks. Who manages the computer-based information system? Actually, the answer to this question anybody, everybody. Today, technology becomes so ubiquitous that it is everybody's information. But in a organization context, either chief information officer or chief technology officer, these are some of the words that are titles that are used, or vice president of information technology, information resources. For example, Marriott uses this terminology, but the idea, what this person does, is the same. Computerized information processing, some of the advantages: labor productivity goes up. As you can imagine, you can do things faster, enhanced decision-making capability. If I were to ask you what's the best seller in a restaurant last year, it may take you months to prepare this information. But if you were to get this information, remember, I'm not notice that I'm not saying data, information, because data becomes information. It takes seconds to be able to get that. It reduces operating cost, computers, hopefully, in many cases it does, and increase information accuracy. Now, for example, imagine a server, there is a table of 10, everybody ordered different things, that if you were to ask for separate bills, it would take really long time for a server to do this manually. But if you use a point of sale system in a restaurant, you can actually split the bill very easily and manage it. Increased revenues is a natural consequence of all the other advantages. Hopefully these all are going to create a better customer satisfaction and loyalty, and this also allows us to have a better control in our systems, which also prevents, let's say, fraud, or at least maybe not prevent for 100%, but it reduces significantly. And data mining is another item in this chapter that we wanted to tell you. Data is so important right now. A lot of people refer to data is the next oil, right? Data, hotels, as I told you in the beginning, that they become almost like a information technology companies now. Of course, hotels and restaurants are still function the same way, but how we operate a hotel, restaurant, any hospitality organization becomes like an information technology company. So data mining, using this data, turning this data into information, is really important today. It is actually the job of the future. So harvesting knowledge from mountains of data, and actually gives us a lot of power in managing our again, this is some of the tools for data mining: decision trees, regression models, text mining, web mining, but we're not going to go into detail. I just want to tell you about the concept here, and which then also allows us to be able to categorize this information that we have, so that when we need to be able to get the data, that information, when we need it to make better decisions. This concludes this particular chapter. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please watch the other videos about different topics in hospitality information technology. Thank you.